Legislation that outlawed poll taxes, literacy tests, and other man-made tools designed to make it harder for African Americans to vote is now one step closer to being wiped away. I'm Blair Miller. President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Voting Rights of 1965 on August 6, months after the tragic events of Bloody Selma. Johnson's action created a smoother path to the ballot box for some of the country's most disenfranchised voters. More than 60 years later, a decision by the U.S. Supreme Court threatens to wipe away decades worth of progress. In a 6-3 decision today, the High Court ruled that a district in Louisiana represented by Democrat Cleo Fields, who is black, relied too heavily on race. The ruling now opens the door for redistricting in several mostly southern states, including Georgia. Atlanta News First Alani Latang is live tonight outside the state capitol explaining what could be next for majority non-white districts. Alani?
Yeah, Blair, we are in the middle of early voting right now ahead of those May 19th primaries, so nothing immediate could happen for this primary election, but we could see some changes coming up in the November election, especially as Georgia Republicans are calling for a special session to redistrict, to redraw those maps. But some voters are saying leave the maps alone, let the voters turnout speak for itself.
This Supreme Court seeks to set us back, decades.
In a historic Supreme Court decision, justices ruled states can almost never consider race when drawing district maps, sparking controversy.
It really is a direct attack on black Georgians and black voters all across our country.
I think that the Supreme Court has finally taken race out of redistricting.
The ruling stems from justices finding that recent redistricting in Louisiana to be unconstitutional because the redrawing had been too heavily race-based. The latest ruling weakens the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which gave voters of color a chance to challenge district maps that allegedly diluted their political power. Former ambassador and Georgia Representative Andrew Young says he's watching what he fought for decades ago being taken away.
I don't know why the Supreme Court would do something, anything, that would lessen the role of protecting the right to vote.
Senator Raphael Warnock responding, saying he wouldn't be here without the Voting Rights Act.
This Trump Supreme Court just threw out the protections that were earned by the civil rights movement. Those who bled, who fought, and who died so that people might have a voice. So that the people might have a voice in their own house.
The ruling will bring major changes to representatives across all levels of government. David Clark, a candidate for lieutenant governor, wrote the Supreme Court removed a barrier, adding that Democrats have used the Voting Rights Act to concoct absurd narratives of racism. Some Georgia Republicans looking to act immediately ahead of November's midterm elections for Congress.
The last thing that Republicans need to do is be weak-kneed in this moment. This is a time to be bold. This is a time to be aggressive. And in Georgia, that means calling a special session and redrawing our maps.
Some hoping to do the opposite to avoid possible disruptions to voting this year.
Folks should be calling Governor Brian Kemp, urging him not to call a special session.
So states will either have to choose to change or be forced by courts to redraw district maps that currently favor minority voters' candidates' choice. Reporting live here at the state capitol, I'm Alani Latang, Atlanta News First.